Your body burns fat at night, or it stores sugar as fat. Which one happens is not determined by breakfast, not by dinner, but by a window that almost every piece of nutritional advice completely ignores. Between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. while you sleep, your liver works all night, and what it does during that time depends on a single biological environment you either create or don't in the hours before bed. This is brain glitch. Every morning, a large portion of the population wakes up with a fasting blood sugar that is higher than it was the night before, not because they ate in their sleep, because their liver spent the entire night actively releasing glucose into their bloodstream. That process has a name, hepatic glucose production. It runs in every human being all night without interruption, and it is the process that no nutrition discussion ever talks about. Most people assume their blood sugar simply drops at night because they're not eating. That's not completely wrong, but it's not completely right either. Your body has an internal system that actively ensures your brain and organs receive glucose even during sleep. It runs whether you're resting, dreaming, or trying to fast. The problem is not the system itself. The problem is when it becomes overactive. Elevated hepatic glucose production overnight means you wake up with a higher baseline, your body secretes insulin in the early morning hours, and you start the day metabolically behind. That repeats every night, over months, over years. And nobody told you there was a measurable way to influence that process before you go to bed. Conventional nutrition advice focuses on what you eat, which carbohydrates, which fats, how many calories. What it systematically leaves out is the question of when your body is most vulnerable to glucose dysregulation. A 2011 study published in PNAS showed that the human brain depends heavily on available glucose for complex decision-making. Poorly regulated glucose affects everything: energy in the morning, focus in the afternoon, appetite control for the entire next day. That's the part the diet industry has no good model for, because the diet industry thinks in daytime. Biology runs around the clock. Estimates from chronobiology suggest that more than 70% of standard work schedules are out of sync with the biological performance windows of most people. That applies to the wake cycle, and equally to the metabolic cycle. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. These conditions don't develop overnight. They develop through repeated, accumulating deviations in the night-by-night metabolism, often completely unnoticed until someone gets bad lab results. Your liver has a circadian clock, a 24-hour rhythm governed by clock genes inside its cells. During the day, it takes up sugar, stores it as glycogen, and processes fat. At night, it switches modes, it reduces glucose uptake, increases glucose output into the bloodstream, and initiates cellular repair processes. That's the correct biological sequence, as long as the starting conditions are right. The problem begins when you go to bed with elevated blood sugar because you ate refined carbohydrates too late, or your last meal was too close to bedtime. In that case, you're forcing your liver to do active metabolic work exactly when its circadian programming is telling it to wind down. The result is inefficient glucose clearance and elevated fasting values the next morning. Think of your liver at night like a factory that's supposed to switch into maintenance mode. If the last order came in too late and is still on the conveyor belt, maintenance can't begin. The machines keep running, the wear accumulates, night after night. When excess glucose reaches the liver and the muscles are already saturated, the liver converts that sugar into fat. That process is called de novo lipogenesis. A study in the Journal of Clinical Investigation found that in people with elevated blood sugar, it can account for a substantial portion of new liver fat accumulation. That's the direct path to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, not from eating fat, but from sugar that turns into fat overnight, unchecked. Everyone who has ever woken up tired despite getting enough sleep knows that feeling. You blame stress, age, sleep quality. Rarely does anyone ask what the liver was doing the night before. If you wake up with a fasting glucose of 94 instead of 106, that's not just a number. That's a different starting point for insulin, energy, and appetite control for the entire day. Over a decade, that's the difference between a body that can compensate and one that no longer can. If you consistently wake up with fasting glucose above 100 millimolars DL, that's not necessarily a diet problem. It may be a timing problem. And timing problems have different solutions than calorie deficits. There's a specific intervention that can be used in the evening to put your liver into a more favorable state before it enters its night mode. No supplement, no diet, a drink made from two ingredients that work on the same system through different biochemical pathways. What exactly those ingredients are and how the process works, that's next. If you recognize that your morning numbers are too high or you feel persistently sluggish despite eating well, leave the word glitch in the comments. We read everyone.